Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for coming back, and as always, huge massive thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it. So coming back again with the Christmas Blockbuster. This is the next topper that I've chosen from the Christmas style collection. This one is called Christmas Cupcakes and it's super cute. So we've got loads on here. We've got the massive topper, we've got a sort of smaller topper here, perfect for those A2 cards. Again, a sort of square topper with the frames. We've got these two sort of sentiment toppers here. Again, you know, perfect for A2 cards. We've got a border, a season's greetings, and have a yummy Christmas. And then the cardstock is just gorgeous, just cookies on that printed one. And then on the foiled one, you've got those snowflakes at the top and all of these beautiful cupcakes at the bottom. So let's pop that to the side. I'm probably just going to be working with the printed cardstock today. Henry's just decided to have a little bark. Let's bring in the trimmer, and I'm going to bring in a piece of 6x12 300 GSM white card. No, that was the right way around. That's because the thing at the bottom confused me for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down to 10 by 5, because what I actually want to do is make a little 5 by 5 stepper card. So the bigger piece will go in my bit box, the smaller piece will go in the bin. I don't tend to do a lot of stamping, but if you do stamping, those smaller bits are perfect for doing little stamping sentiments and things. So I'm going to pop this card over to the 1" mark. So I've got one of these trimmers that allows me to measure up to 1.5 inches past the cut point. And I'm going to pop my blade down to the 1" and I'm going to cut to 6 inches. And then what I'm going to do is just flip that over, line that back up with that 1" and then cut again from that 6 inch down to the 1. And then what I will do while that's in there is I will pop this at the 5" mark, and I'm just going to pop that centre line in on the card. Just makes it easier for me to find on the scoreboard, which we will just bring in now. There we go. So let's go with the whiter side. So I'm going to score at 1, at 2 and at 6. What I'm going to do is just go over that line across the middle, just make that a nice deep score. And then I tend to just flip it over and do the 1, 2 and the 6 again. Okay, and this sort of size, this 5 by 5, is perfect for using any of those little pieces of gold mirror up that you might have in your bit box. I'm just going to give those a good press down, and then what I'll do is just make sure it's lined up along this edge. Bring my burnishing tool in again. There, that one's fine. Remembering those underscores, the ones that are underneath. I'll just give those all a good burnish down so that we've got that little stepper card nice and sharp creases. A little bit of rough on those sides there, but I'm sure that'll be fine. So that's what we are starting with. So let's put that to the side. So let's bring in, so I did just drag a few bits of gold pieces in, so I think I might be able to do it with these. So I'm going to start with the longest piece, which is 5 inches by 1. So I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off the 1 and off the 5. That's going to be our piece that goes across there. And then these pieces here on either side are going to be 1 by 4. So let's take a piece of tape, and it's just going to hold it in place with these smaller bits. Sometimes they do try and move. It's just an extra pair of hands. And that little piece, you could use it as a border, but I have got quite a few of those, so I'm just going to pop that away. And then we'll cut that down to 1/8 of an inch, 2 notches under the 4. And then I'm going to do the same on this little piece here. And if if you've got a piece that's long enough, you can check it off by both marks at the top and the bottom. Again, we'll get rid of that piece there, and then 2 notches under the 4. And that can go into there. And then this piece here is 3 by 4. So I'm going to take 2 notches off the 3 and 2 notches off the 4, and that piece is going to go into there. Okay, and then for the decorative part of my card, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a 5-inch piece off, because I know that's about what I'm going to need. It might be a little bit of wastage, but it's going to be easier for me to manage. So let's start with this longest piece at the bottom, which needs to be 3/4 of an inch wide by 4 3/4. And we can pop that onto there. And then I want these 2 pieces need to be 4 inches, so let's cut that to 3 3/4. Just going to double check that is the right length. Yeah. So we'll go with the smaller pieces first, so they're going to be 3/4 of an inch. Yeah. And there. And then that centre piece, which is going to be 2 3/4, which is our piece that's going to go on there. So like I say, we've got a decent size piece there, and that's a good size topper. I'll keep that one in case I need a flag somewhere as well. Now if you wanted to, you could mix up maybe a bit of plain cardstock as well, just to give yourself a bit of variation on the colours. But I am going to use a bit of the border on this one, so it's all just going to be nicely toned, and just checking that those are fitting quite nicely together. There we are. Okay, so let's get these glued together. So the glues I'm going to be using today, I am going to be using the dotty tape pen with these smaller bits. We've got some Clow tacky glue, Clow all-purpose glue, and of course I will be using the purple glue stick at some point as well with those foam pads. So I'm just going to pop some dots on the end, and I tend to like to use 2 glues, mainly because I do like to use the all-purpose glue, and it has such a long open time that sometimes if I'm making a video things move when I don't want them to. So by using those other glues, I can just reduce that down a little bit, but still get that beautiful wiggle room time. So this is just stuck down a little faster than I wanted to. So because it's the dotty tape pen, it is repositionable for a small amount of time. So if I lift that up, oh, no nails. And what I can do is just get that better placed. I think that's a little better than it was. This is when I faff. There we go. I still think that's quite close to that end. got it in the end. Let's hope they're all not going to be like that. Let's see if we can get them all nicely without faffing. And just pop that on. Try not to let it press down too much. And then we can just wiggle that into place and press down. That's a lot easier than that first piece was. And you don't want to go too wild with your all-purpose here, because it can, if it splurges out and you try and wipe it away, it can take the shine off any sort of finished card, not just Gold Mary. But it is a really great glue, which is why I do use the 2 glues as well, so I don't have to go quite so close to those edges. But I can also pop something on those edges that will make it stick a little quicker, and also make sure my topper is, or my layer is secure in those corners. So let's just pop that one on. That there. Now this one does feel like it's a little blocked up, so let me just grab a little pin. Free that up a little bit. I think I did leave the lid off it the other day, which is a bit naughty. Okay, so with these pieces here, again I'm going to go with these dots, and the important thing is to make sure that the piece up here is all nice and level, because you're not going to see this piece at the bottom because it's going to be hidden by the step. So if you make sure that everything's looking good at that top point, obviously you're going to keep an eye on the sides as well, but when that's up, you're going to see that's going to be nicely in position. Now I can see, just faffing again, that just needs to go over tiniest wee bit. Oh, that's a bit better. And you might not want to decorate this flat like I'm doing, or you might want to decorate it folded up, whatever works for you. And I don't really think there is a right or a wrong side to this, you know, sort of rotation to this cardstock. It could be that way or it could be that way, as the pattern still looks the same. So that is good. I could do with just going over just a little bit there. And sorry, just spin that around. And just the tiniest bit there. Better to my eye. Okay, let's get these on. This is when the card sort of starts to come together. You'll start to see these patterns building it up. And incidentally, this pattern with the dots, this was there was a free embossing folder with one of the magazines. We're currently on 84. So I want to say, and I'm guessing it's going to be 82 maybe, magazine 82. I think it's the one that came with the little animal antics kit, or I think that's what it's called. It had little animals in, but it has this beautiful bubble pattern, so if you wanted to add some embossing with that same texture, I don't think I've got it to hand here with me in a minute, so I would show you. That might have the just see if I can grab it. Could well have the magazine number on. No, it's not there. I usually keep them quite close to hand because I do like to use them, especially when the magazine's still available, because the magazines are such great value. But that's the start of our little card, coming along quite nicely. So So let's grab the topper. So of course I'm going with this beautiful one up here. So this is going to go onto here. It might come down a little. I'm going to bring in the Yummy Christmas, because that's going to bring those colours across really nicely. And then I did say I wanted to bring in this little cookie border as well. So let's just cut those ends, and then we should be able to just... This is a nice thin border, this one. Let's just use my knife to release that gently, making sure I don't cut into it. Like that. There we go. Trouble is with using a scalpel is it's really happy to cut, and it doesn't care where it cuts. So you just have to be a bit careful with it. Okay, let's just go neaten that edge up, and then we can cut this to 4 3/4. So it's going to go across a whole piece. Still got a nice piece there that we could use as a flag or poking out from somewhere. So let's bring that in. That's going to go across that bottom there. We will keep that just that nice border at the top but overlapping at the bottom, and then we can bring that piece in at the bottom, and then a couple of gems. I think that's where we are going to go. Now this piece here I'm going to go with some 1mm foam pads. So it's quite a narrow border, so let's just chop into those 1mm pads. And oh, that was stuck to my finger. Let's grab that one there. There. So we can take those off. Fingers and thumbs today, not quite sure why. There we go. I'll grab the purple glue stick just over the top of there. My desk. Now there isn't a right or a wrong way with this border, so fairly confident just popping that on, sliding that where I want that to be. Because of this purple glue stick, it just gives it that lovely ability to slide. And then this one here will go with some 2mm foam pads, so just pop. I'm going to do the same with that sentiment as well. So I won't put the pads on there until we've decided for sure where I'm going to place that. Yes, it feels a bit stronger. So just taking these off the back. Obviously if you wanted to go smaller, it depends on what sort of envelope you've got for it. Like I said on my last video, if you have got an envelope that is quite tight, you might even want to go flat. But if you've got a little bit of give, maybe a 1mm foam pad. If you've got a bit more give like the ones that I have, you could go with the 2mm like I've got here, maybe even higher depending on what you have. And then we have this piece here. Right, I'm wondering whether to come across the two, or we could, let's just move that up again. So this is where that purple glue stick really comes in. So I can just go that a little bit higher. I'm kind of feeling like it needs to be there. Now, what I'm going to do, because we have got those 1mm pads on that other border there, is I'm going to fling these around a little bit. Then I'm going to pop them just onto the edge. So I've cut them down nice and narrow. I'm actually going to cut that one. This one. If you want a bit of extra support in the middle, you could go with a 1mm pad, just so that it meets this pad here, but I think this is going to be enough. We will just double check. Yeah, I think it's going to be fine. So because these are so narrow, I'm not going to use my purple glue stick on there. I will just pop a little bit of tacky glue. And if you didn't want it to be quite to the bottom like this, you know, in this place in here, what you could do is go over to the left or go over to the right, have a little play, see what appeals to your eye. There's no right, no wrong in the crafting. That's why I do love it quite so much. And obviously if you wanted to, you could, instead of using that long topper there, you could go with one that goes all the way down. I'll just pop that out and show you. You could probably get away with doing this as an A2 stepper with that down the middle, you know, so you might even get the two of them together if you wanted to, but yeah, definitely some options there to use that. Now I am going to bring in some little gold gems, and I think what I want to do is go at a sort of spray going across. We do want those smaller ones, I think maybe that size, and you could go just popping them on the actual I'm gonna have to go with that one because that's the next slide up. You could just have them on the snowflakes, or pop some in some of these baubles, whichever you preferred. So we'll spread them about in a second. We want you, because you're already around the right way. I think what I need to do is move this up a little bit over here. And then we can move you going down there, I think. Maybe I might just add an extra 2 on here. Let's see if we can get those into position. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Obviously if you wanted to, you could go in the corners. Just I'm liking this sort of diagonal spray sort of at the moment. It's really one of my favourite things to do with the gems. And obviously with the gems not being self-adhesive, the brilliant thing is that you can play with them and see what works for you. There we go, and then if I carefully turn that around, and it just me, these tiny ones are super tiny. I mean, I don't even think they might be a millimetre, if that. I'm not gonna obviously need a lot of glue. Okay, so So there is our card number 1, a little cute little 5x5 stepper. It's going to stand really cute on a shelf. Inside the insert I would do 4x5, and I would just cover this bit here. I never try and do this bit here because sometimes it just looks a little weird, because on one side it might be more, because you're guessing it at the end of the day. But if you do it just across that middle bit, it always looks quite neat. But that's card number 1, and I'm just going to get set up for card number 2. Okay, so for card number 2, I'm going with a 6x6. You know, it's my favourite size of card to do. So I've just taken one of those 6x12 card blanks and I've scored it in half. And obviously this is 300 GSM white card. I get mine from Paper Cuts. Brilliant company. I think I had one, I've ordered them a couple of times now, and I had one package that came that was damaged and they sorted it straight away. And I always think the best sort of tell of a company is when something goes wrong and their customer service. But they were brilliant, so that's why I have them in my links in my description box. If you are looking for some card, not only is it a great deal, they are a great company. Okay, obviously that's not going to apply to you guys abroad. So what I've done is I've taken a 6x6 mirror mat and I've just taken those 2 notches, or 1/8 off 2 of those sides. So that's going to fit onto there quite nicely. Then I'm going to grab that beautiful printed cardstock. We want to take that to 5 3/4. I think what I'm going to do is take it this way. Let's take it to 2 notches under the 6 first of all. So I've got a nice piece of green there that I can use as a border. I just wanted to narrow that border down. Again, we've got another thin piece here we could use as a border. And then, so eventually it ends up at 5 3/4 square, but it's just not quite so much border on that left hand side, just because I've scaled it down a little bit. That is the base of our card. So let's pop that on. Nice and easy. I do like making just a sort of normal, I don't like to say a plain tent fold, a normal tent fold. And I think I've said this before, especially like for Christmas cards, because unless you make cards, not everybody appreciates the beautiful folds like we do. So especially if you're selling cards, squeaky, it's, you know, it's easier I think to sell a tent fold or a side fold than maybe a pretty fold that you've spent hours on. Okay, let's just pop this on. For some reason I've got a bit of glue on there. But that is going to be the start of our card. Just sometimes the lights here make it difficult to see when it's exactly even all the way around, but I think we're about there. I'm going with this beautiful square topper. And just popping that out, it's coming out quite easy. So we've got this guy here. I think we'll go with the season's greeting. That's going to bring that pop of red in, and then maybe some red gems to finish this off. So let's pop all of these frames out. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using all of these frames, but what I want to do is pop these frames, pop the frame on a sort of diagonal, as that's the plan. Ooh, doesn't want to come out. There we go. There we go. And then what we could do is just quickly just check for pips. That one looks okay. Looks okay. I think this one is going to be the worst one because it's got the both sides. And all I'm doing is just running the edge of the scissors along the edge of that cut, just to take any excesses. So like there was a little bit of white, and I'm just taking them off, just neatening that up. And you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Okay, so this is the plan. So this is going to come in like so. Now, do I want to bring that back in and then our topper, or do I want, so there's a bit of a, do I want to just bring that back in? Now I think it does need that gold coming back in. What I might do is go underneath maybe. Yes, I like that. And then we can come over, either I can go straight onto the bottom there, or I think I'm probably going to come over to the side, and then we'll have some gems here and here. That is going to be the plan. Okay. Now the first thing I want to do, I'm going to use tacky glue on this frame, just because it is such a narrow one. And then we don't want to throw it on a project like that. I want to pop it into the middle, and then I can maneuver that over to suit. We'll just bring in my straight edge ruler just to make sure that bit's straight. That was fine, and then I think that should be fine as well. Okay, now what I'm going to do with this one is we're going to go to 1mm. So if I pop this on around about where we want that to be, I am going to have to cut some of these in half. They're a little bit wide. There we go, try that. And then what I want to do is just avoid where those gold pieces are. So basically I'm just going in the corners. Just got a little bit of glue there, but that sentiment is going to go there anyway, just where I dropped my topper. And that one, so it is a bit dull here weather-wise today, for you weather watchers. I've had a bit of rain this morning, I think, before I got up. So it must have been before, overnight sort of thing, because the ground is wet. So I'm quite happy about that, because it means I have to go out and water less. So the fruit trees are pretty much not done well this year, except for the apple tree, which did escape its actually use that one. It did escape its pot, so I suspect that's why it's done quite well. It's got quite a few apples on it, but there is a rat that comes back each year and tries to steal them. You can see where that glue is marked there. Let's see if we can just, I mean, it does look like it's part of the pattern, but I'm not so worried about what's in the middle, because that's all going to be hidden, but it's all coming off quite nicely without taking the cardstock off. So I'm happy with that. Okay, let's go back to this. It's got no right or wrong, so we just need to pop that on and try and get it nice and even. I think around about there is going to be good. And then if I grab the 2mm ones, we'll pop these just into the centre. We know it's going to cover up this whole square because the frame came out of there. So that's going to be fine. So we'll pop that in, and I will use the tacky glue. I don't like taking the purple glue stick to my project because I can be quite messy with it. I am a messy crafter. So we can just pop that back where it needs to be in that square. I think that's on the wonk. Just on this left side. And those are the beauty of using those type of glues to help you craft. Just giving you that wiggle room time with the foam pads. Bit of extra security as well with the foam pads, because the nature of them is that eventually they will shrink and lose their glue, and that's not just Hunkydory. I mean, these aren't Hunkydory anyway, these are a Fix-It. But you know, most foam pads, because it's the same sort of stuff that they do the insulation with, so that happens to that as well over time. So just the nature of the product, I think. So we've got a choice here. We could go with some red gems, or we could go with gold gems. I feel red, it needs red. Now I've got red pearls, or I should have in here, let's see if I've got them two hands. Yeah, they're there. And here you go. A little packet we should have in the back here. So this was a pack that came from, oh, that's a bit orangey, from Timu. And you've got all of these different colours. It's only about £3, something like that. It's not there, that's not great. I know what I can do. Let's pop those to the side. And I think I have got some. There we go, I've got those. So let's see, what do we prefer? Do we prefer some red pearls? Oops. Let's pop them. I think the diamond sparkle ones are going to be better. Yeah, they're a bit brighter, aren't they? Let's go with the sparkles. So let's go. It's quite a knife. We'll go with a big one and a medium, and then a big one down this bottom corner here. You could actually go in, if you've got lots of little gems, you could put them on these little sort of I think they're cranberries, or they could be holly berries, because we've got holly on here. So you could go in and pop them over there just to accentuate. You could also come in with a bit of glitter just because it's foiled and beautiful. Don't think you can add those finishes to it. Anything like that you can still add in just to add a bit extra, and you could always come in with a little gem on these snowflakes as well. So that is card number 2, sweet and simple, little tent fold, but looking pretty cool. I like that one. So let's bring back in card number 1. So that was card number 1. Now we've still got quite a lot on this one because we've got that whole foiled sheet we haven't used. We've got those two little sort of sentiment toppers and the big one. I love this little marshmallow man. We've got those 2 big pieces of card and then the foiled piece, as I said. So So super cute. I mean, if you wanted to do DL cards, you could get 2 out of that with those sentiments on, and then maybe a bigger card, maybe 7 by 7, something like that, depending on your borders and stuff. But that's it for today. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you've had a great weekend. Just want to pop that there because I need to remember the name of it. It's Christmas Cupcakes. I hope you've had a great weekend, and I shall see you in the beginning of next week. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend and happy crafting. Bye.